order your worms yet. Seriously, if you skip this step, you're basically serving your new worms stale chips or putting them in the desert and wondering why they're not thriving. Today, we're prepping new worm bedding the right way, assuming you've never had worms before. Building bedding that's alive, balanced, and ready to welcome worms like a 5-star guest. Why bedding matters. Here's the deal. Fresh bedding like plain wet cardboard or coco core might look fine, but it's lifeless. There's no community of bacteria or fungi working to balance behind the scenes. Think of your bin like a new town. The worms are the residents, but the microorganisms, they're the restaurants, construction crew, and the janitors, and they make it livable. So before worms move in, you need to let the microbe population grow. Give them time to build the neighborhood. Here's some of the materials you'll need. You don't need fancy stuff. There are do-it-for-you kits online, but use what you have. Shredded cardboard and paper. Make sure when you're shredding that cardboard to leave off any of that thermal or even laser printed stickers or tapes that are not biodegradable. Okay? The more surface area shredded, the better, but you can just do it with your hands. Some coco core or even peat moss if you have it or use it in your garden or seed starting kits. But again, don't have it, don't use it. Okay? Cardboard and paper are fine. A handful of compost. That's great stuff. Make sure it's sifted, already been hot. There is microorganism activity in there ready to start your bin. Grab a handful of it. All right? Put it in. That's how I started my very first one. And if you have it, a nice handful of finished vermicompost. Even if you bought it or maybe got it from a friend, a handful of already finished vermicompost, worm castings, is going to jumpstart that thing, right? Because that's what we're ultimately after. That's the microbes we already want. That's kind of like your starter culture. Coffee grounds, just a little, could help a little bit. Add a little bit of nitrogen going in there, something to feed on. But you have to have the secret weapon. My secret weapon today is a moldy banana. I've also got some moldy pumpkin, just because it's that time of year. We're going to throw that in for a bonus. The banana jumpstarts the fungi and bacteria that your worms will later rely on. It's like seasoning your cast iron pan. Necessary. Now, the water rule. Water's where a lot of people mess up. I think I've done it myself in the past. Chlorine and chloramine. It's what's in most tap water. And it can kill off microbes you're trying to grow, especially when you're really soaking it and letting it sit in that water. Use unchlorinated water. I've got a couple of videos on how to unchlorinate water. I do it on a massive scale because our water has a lot of chlorine on it. Rainwater, easy, usually no chlorine. Pond water, in moderation, okay, in moderation. That good stuff growing in there might help you, but in moderation. Or even tap water that's just been sitting out for 24 hours, especially if it's been in a pan or something with a lot of surface area so that chlorine can kind of evaporate off. If you want to get fancy, grab some aquarium dechlorinator. I've never used it myself, but I heard it works. But just use what's around. Don't get too fancy. If you're really worried, you can go to the store and buy some unchlorinated water to start with. You'll see as your worm bin populates, I've used tap water in it, and it's not the end of the world. Okay, just use it in moderation. But to get started, definitely give yourself the best chance. Now, building the bedding. Now, we're going to mix it all up. Cardboard, if you have any core, do that first. And a bit of compost, some coffee grounds. Then we're going to mash or bury that banana right in there like you're making a nice, wormy smoothie. Yeah, baby. I like to mix mine outside the bin in a different bin, especially if it's going into a larger bin. This I'm actually prepping to go into my urban worm bag for some brand new worms that are coming in 2 weeks. I like to prep it in another bin, right? That gives me a little more working space. If I put too much water, it doesn't stay in the bin, and it's just easier to control. I like to also mix small amounts. Even a mixing bowl, right? If you start off with a bin, kind of like the one behind me here, that was my very first worm bin, you don't need a lot of space. A mixing bowl will be just fine. The water needs to soak in evenly before I add it to any kind of bin, okay? If you dump dry material into your bag, you'll end up chasing dry pockets later, And nobody wants to play the hydration whack-a-mole with a spray bottle. Add water slowly until the texture is like a wrung out sponge. If it drips more than a drop or two, when you squeeze it hard, it's too wet. There's no perfect science to this. Okay, I'd recommend getting a moisture meter. You don't have to. Okay, you'll get the hang of it. As long as it's wet and not totally in a puddle, your worms are going to be fine. Okay, you'll get the hang of this over a while. This mix should feel earthy, not sloppy. That's your worm's bedding base. Now, the most important part, let it mature. Here's the hardest part. You can't rush it. Let this sit out for at least 2 weeks before adding worms. During that time, microorganisms multiply, the banana breaks down, your bedding turns from dead fiber to living soil. And your worms just want to crawl up in that living soil and do what worms do, baby. Poop and you know what. Anyways, the step is everything. Skipping it's like moving it to a new house before the electricity is turned on. Okay, it looks fine, but nothing's working yet. Okay, nothing is working yet. Make sure you give it that time. If you start with some worm castings, you pretty much can get going right away. There's a lot of debate around pre-composting, things like that, for adding a new material. A lot of what I put into my bins to start is worm castings and pre-composted material. And anytime I'm feeding and layering on new layers, I'm not letting anything really sit. For me, it's already been pre-composted. But as you'll see a lot of people talk about online, you don't really need to do that. You put it in, right? The bacteria and stuff in there will kind of inoculate it. It might be slower. They might break down a little slower, but you'll kind of learn your process as you go. When it's ready, it should smell earthy. Not funky, not sour, just like a forest floor after a fresh rain. If it's too wet, add dry cardboard. Too dry, mist it lightly with some unchlorinated water, okay? Tweaks along the way do not mean you messed anything up. It means that you're in tune with your worm bin, and it means you're going to get a really great product out of it. You doing this process and waiting this long and ordering your new worms or getting them from a friend, timing this right, shows me that you're already invested and are going to succeed. And that's it. Your worm bag, your worm bin, your CFT, whatever you're putting them in is officially prepped and alive. Hopefully. If it's walking around the room, we got a bigger problem. But hopefully it's prepped and alive enough for the worms. Until then, I'm Worm Guy Harry, reminding you that good things come from dirty work. We'll see you on the next one.